edition of the Two-Way Prep Sports Podcast. Tony, Roman, and yours truly, Mike, here from Four Corners, brought to you by Four Corners, obviously, here, guys. Tony, how you feeling today?
I'm great, man. Excited to do this. It's a great week of football.
Hell yeah, it is, man. 5A SIC and intra-Idaho action heating up this week as we push towards the playoffs, guys. Very exciting football games this week here. And we have some updated stats to give you guys here in the SIC in particular. Guys, as you know, the number 4 Corners Sports. Again, the number 4 Corners Sports. And you can find us and interact with us in any one of the social media platforms, guys. That's Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter. If you want to look up some game of the week lines, against the spread lines, add ATS at the end of that on the Twitter sphere, and you'll find some lines to bet on there. Obviously, all is just informative action, mostly professional for those of us that are only talking college and want to talk about the amateur athletics. We will avoid those betting scenes on the college games, but please look for those. Some of the corners will be doing that, but this one, as you guys know, can be found available on Spreaker, our new listening apps, SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify. However you guys want to listen to podcasts, you can find the Four Corners Sports Show, as well as this, the Two-Way Prep Sports Podcast, brought to you by Four Corners Sports. Tony, let's jump right into the action here, guys. We gave you a recap over the weekends, including a hint at our game of the week, and we have a special surprise for our listeners today. But, Tony, why don't you give us some stats here, how it's looking up and shaping up in the 5A SIC?
All right. Yeah, there's some big numbers. I'm surprised seeing these. Number 1 in offense, Eagle, 452 yards a game. They're 5-1 or 4-1, excuse me. Number 2 in the SIC, or 3 in the SIC with that loss to Mountain View a couple weeks ago. Number 2 in the state is actually Post Falls up north by Coeur d'Alene with 409 yards offensively a game. It looks like they're going to be pushing for the playoffs between them and the winner of Coeur d'Alene-Lewiston game. And number 3 in the state is Rocky Mountain, the only undefeated team left, with 331 offensive yards a game. So there's some good athletes out there, man. There's some good offenses going. That's a lot, especially that 452 by Eagle.
Yes, and I do apologize, guys, if you're listening. It's not just the 5A SIC. This is the entire state, top offensive teams, top statistical teams that we're going over here. So, Tony, what's next?
Defensively, we got, as expected, Rocky Mountain is number 1 in the state, giving up 183 yards a game. Guys, that's less than 2 football fields a game they're giving up. That's ridiculous. Number 2 is Highland defense with 210 yards a game. Highland, again, is out of Pocatello, and they have an advantage because most of their games are played indoors at Holt Arena, so they're used to the perfect weather. They don't have to deal with any elements in there. And then number 3, always top 5, is Mountain View, and Coach Benedict's defense giving up 211 yards a game. They're 1 yard off of Highland, so it's pretty impressive with those 3 teams.
That's very, very interesting statistical-wise for the state of Idaho. We knew we were going to see some SIC teams in there, as we do every year, but individually, man, are there some outliers or some standouts that you're noticing individually, statistical wise?
I got the quarterbacks and a couple of the running backs. Actually surprised at the quarterback. Number 1 is Franson from Skyview with 1,355 yards passing to 9 touchdowns and 6 picks. Number 2 is Boeing at Capital, 1146 through the air, 13 touchdowns, 7 picks. And number 3 is Ferris at Mountain View, 813 yards, 10 touchdowns, 6 picks. And I think Ferris is the only underclassman on here. The other 2 are seniors. And for running the ball, we got 2 of them. It's Bolt with 986 yards and 17 touchdowns, you guys, as the quarterback. And number 2 is Ford from Eagle, the other quarterback, with 680 yards and 12 touchdowns. Everybody else is about 200 yards off the pace, so it's those 2 and everybody else. But 17 touchdowns by Bolt, that's crazy.
Yeah, and what is that, 5 games into the year, 6 games? That's just an outrageous number.
Yes, from a quarterback not running an option offense. It's insane.
So, as you guys know here, thank you very much for our statistical update here on that, Tony. We try to put together, some listening, and some topics that you guys want to hear here in the Treasure Valley, as well as throughout the state of Idaho. We had some cool topics on some Pocatello schools last week. So please, if you haven't listened to us before, tune into those previous episodes as we get this ball rolling here for your high school listening experience. We plan on rolling basketball into the mix here. If you guys want to see a spring sport, we'll go that way as well. But we're doing this for you guys. If you want to see something or you want to hear something specifically, please let us know. Interact with us. We respond almost immediately on one of those, social media platforms, or honestly, even if you want to just leave a comment on one of the podcast listening platforms, this is all for you guys. Let's give you some stuff that you want to hear. But Tony, we always do game of the week outside of the Treasure Valley, man. What are you looking at the 5A level here outside the Valley?
It is Lewiston 3-3 at Coeur d'Alene 4-2. Winner of this is in, losers out most likely, with Post Falls leading up there at 4-1. So this is a huge game. It's tough for anybody to go to Coeur d'Alene and win, especially the weather. It snowed up there this week, so that's going to be an issue. And Lewiston traveling up there, so it's definitely the state outside Valley game of the week. Lewiston at Coeur d'Alene.
Lewiston at Coeur d'Alene. Loser is most likely out of the playoff picture. Is that correct, Tony?
Yes. That is that. Yeah, with everything that's happening, I'm going to say the loser's out.
Big stakes up north then. It has to be a pretty good game this week then to top that here in your game of the week in the Treasure Valley. Who are we looking at this week, man?
Like we talked about, I think mentioned it last week, the game of the week is in the 4A ranks. And it is undefeated and 6-0 CUNA Cavemen traveling to 5-1 and number 2 in the state, the Knights of Bishop Kelly. I can't wait for that game tonight. I'll be there on the sidelines.
You know what? And Tony, before we get into a quick little breakdown of this, we have a very, very special announcement for our guests here, included in today's edition of the 208 Prep Sports Podcast, brought to you by Four Corners Sports. Tony, why don't you give them a little shout out what we're about to hear here?
Yeah, guys, I went over and I had a nice sit down with the legendary coach Tim Brennan of Bishop Kelly Knights and his football team this week. So we got a nice interview with that, about 15 minutes long. Some good insight on the players from both teams, what he's looking for, what are his keys to victory for the Knights tonight. So it's pretty interesting.
Guys, and we're going to give you that listen right now. So, again, for your listening pleasure here, Tim Brennan, varsity head coach of the Bishop Kelly Knights, regarding our game of the week.
Hey guys, it's Tony Roman here with the 208 Prep Podcast presented by Four Corners Sports. I have legendary coach here, Tim Brennan of the BK Knights. Coach, thanks for joining us today.
You bet, Tony. Thank you.
Coach, so let's just get right into it. We want to talk about the game of the week this week. It is the 5-0 CUNA Cavemen versus 5-1 BK Knights at BK. What can you tell me about this CUNA team?
Well, obviously it's a very big game. They're a very, very strong football team. Like I've told my players this week, I said this is why you play high school football, to have an opportunity to play in games like this. CUNA's got a lot of talent. They're big up front, but they also have some speed. To do a lot of different things offensively and are very aggressive defensively. And so it's going to be a good game. We're going to have to play very well to have an opportunity to be in the game and hopefully have a chance to win it.
Yeah, it looks like on paper with stats, you guys are pretty average together. Like it shows a BK, you guys are rushing for 218 yards a game, while CUNA's passing for 275. So something's got to give on that. It could be a tough game down the stretch.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's interesting. It's an interesting team for us this year, is where we have a lot of really good high school football players, and everybody is making plays when they have to make plays. We don't lead the state in stats either, in any area as a team. But the only stat that really matters at the end of the game is the points on the scoreboard. Yep. And so we hope we can make some plays to stop them. I think a big key this week, as it is every week, but more this week than any week, is hoping we can create a couple turnovers because they are going to move the ball.
Yep.
We know that. They're going to move the ball on us. We've got to be able to move the ball on them, try to keep it out of their hands, and hopefully we can win the turnover game.
Well, it looks like on defense, you guys, your linebacker, Horning, through 6 games has 81 tackles. That's 13 and a half tackles a game. That's more tackles than anybody in the state, even 5A. What can you tell me about this kid?
Well, Jay, if he walked down the hall, you would say he's a middle backer. I mean, he's probably 5'8", 185 pounds, but he's tough. He's fast. He's very smart, reads very well, and just does a great job for us. And he will have to have a great game for us. Hopefully he can cover some guys out of the backfield and put some pressure on the quarterback, and obviously slow down their run game. Jay's a great kid and just worked hard to be where he's at.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen him 13 and a half tackles a game. I mean, that's incredible.
Yeah, it is. He had 21 one game this year, which is unbelievable.
Wow. So this CUNA team, were you expecting this? Because they weren't on my radar at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, I knew they had talent. They were talented last year. Lost some very close games. And our conference is so tough. If you make a mistake or two, you're not going to win some of those games. And they were very talented last year and just weren't able to get some of the wins that they needed to get. And so I knew they had some good kids coming back. And their quarterback is a junior, although he didn't start last year, but he's a junior this year and very talented young player. And like I said, I knew they had the ability to be really good.
Yeah. Enough about CUNA, Coach. Let's talk about your team. Out of all the great teams you've had, the state championship teams, this team had high hopes, and they started off. You guys went to Nampa and lost that first game, and have rolled off 5 in a row since then. What did that loss do to you guys?
Well, as we started the year this year, and as a coaching staff, we knew it was a young team. We're starting more juniors than we've ever started here at Bishop Kelly in the last 10 years for sure. And so we are young, and we're inexperienced at the beginning of the year. And so we knew it was going to be, kind of tough a little bit in the beginning of the year. And Nampa played real well. We made too many mistakes in that game. But we've got a little bit better every week, and our players are getting better every week. And, the Valley View game and then the Middleton game have gave our players some confidence. And they're starting to believe in themselves. And like I said, I don't know talent-wise where we rank in the years past of our teams, but they're winning football games and winning close games, which is what it's about. So it's going to be a great game Friday night, and it'll be interesting to see how the season ends up. It's been a great group of kids to coach, great group of guys, good kids, and they're having fun playing together.
Yeah, that first loss and then getting that confidence going and maybe reading the paper a little bit too much. When I was at Bora in 2012, I think we lost to Boise High School the first game of the year and then ended up winning the SIC. It was like the best thing that happened was that loss because it woke them up. So it looks like that's what's happening with this Bishop Kelly team. Coach, let's talk about going into, I know there's still 3 weeks left of the season. You guys got Ridgeview, I believe, last. So let's talk about going into the playoffs. What you can see at least shaping up for the SIC. You guys get 5 this year?
Yeah, we get 5, and I think the way it's probably going to work out is 5 teams. The top 5 teams are probably going to make the playoffs, and 5's a lot of teams out of 9. But in our league, there's 5 really, really good football teams that are as good as any team in the state of Idaho is 4A, I believe. And so, it's going to be really interesting to see how the playoffs shake out. Whoever makes the playoffs and where you are in the playoffs, you will not play one of our schools in the first round, but you could play one in the second round, which is not really a good deal if you're playing a team that you've already played once and you got to play them again. And so it's going to be interesting how it shakes out. You can look throughout the state and maybe kind of look at some other teams, and you really don't know how good those teams are. But you do know the teams in our league are very good football teams. And so we just got to finish well and play well Friday night and take care of business the following week, and we'll see where we land, and then we'll go one game at a time.
Coach, do you know anything about the teams from the east or the north? Who's looking up there?
Well, obviously the last several years, last year we played Hillcrest in the state championship game, and they were very, very good. Skyline, we played them last year in the playoffs. Year before that, or 2 years before that, we played them in the state championship, and I guess we played Skyline 3 years in a row now. They're a very good football team, but Blackfoot, who has been good, maybe not quite as good the last couple years, but we played them in the state championship, I don't know, 2014, I think. They beat Skyline and Blackfoot. And so those three schools in the East are good. Then you also have Century, who's out of Pocatello, that's most likely going to be in the playoffs, and then Minico. And the northern schools are, I think, Sandpoint and Lakeland and Moscow are all better this year than they've been in the past. So it's going to be really an interesting year once those playoffs start.
Good. That's something to look forward to, those playoffs starting 3 weeks from now. Coach, last thing, give me, other than the turnovers, give me the key to the victory for the Knights on Friday.
Well, it's going to be the little things. It's going to be able to try to move the ball, get first downs, keep the ball out of their hands. They're very, very good offensively, and we're going to have to sustain drives. And in any game that you play like this, special teams are going to come into a factor. And so you're going to have to make a play on special teams and hopefully keep them. I think last year they returned a kickoff on special teams. We returned a kickoff on special teams. And, it was kind of a traded situation. So it's all going to be those little things that are going to make the difference this week.
Great. Well, everybody, come on out to the game of the week for 208 Prep Sports Podcast. It's CUNA at BK. Should be a great game. Supposed to be 55 degrees at kickoff. Come out there, root on your Knights to a great victory. Coach Brennan, thank you for this opportunity, for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Tony.
Go Knights. Thank you.
And once again, guys, that was Tim Brennan, head coach of the varsity squad over there at the Bishop Kelly High School. Our game of the week here, CUNA Cavemen traveling to Bishop Kelly and taking on the Knights, guys. That's 7 o'clock here in the Valley. Tony, thank you very much for getting that interview done with Coach Brennan. Thank you very much for having us and being a part of the show there. And, guys, Tony's going to be there on the sidelines, guys. You want to, see if there's anything else you want to chirp at him a little bit from the stands. Get a picture of them. We'd love any interactions with some fans here for our 208 Prep Sports Podcast. So, Tony, thanks for getting over there, man.
Yeah, it was awesome. Been a while since I've been back to BK, and Coach Brennan's legendary. Like I said, he has 5 state championships, I think, 4 in a row, make a state championship game. So he definitely knows what he's talking about. It was a very good experience.
You know what? Just based on what you heard from him, and obviously we gave a little game of the week prediction last week, but from just this sitting down and talking with him, is there anything that changed your mind or changed your prediction there?
No, I'm going with the Knights all the way. At home, I got the Knights winning this game.
And that would be an upset, as we previously talked about. CUNA, the number 1 team in the state, ranked right now, guys, and that is at the 4A level. Once again, thank you very much for joining us here at the 2-Way Prep Sports Podcast, brought to you by Four Corner Sports. Again, guys, the number 4 Corner Sports, the number 4 Corners Sports, any one of the social media platforms, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, as well as any one of the podcast listening platforms. You can find some of the major ones. We are on SoundCloud, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play Store, and our new platform we just got on, Spreaker, guys. You can find us a number of different ways. Please interact with us. Love to get you content you want to listen to. In the meantime, guys, thanks for joining us once again. And here's to you. Here's to us. We'll catch you next time on the 2-Way Prep Sports Podcast. Later, Tony.
See you, man. Thanks.